Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I just really want to give a huge thank you to all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I believe I'm at about 75 subscribers now, and I am just extremely happy that you all are subscribing to my videos and that you appreciate my content. Thank you so much for giving this platform an opportunity. Please consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to hit the like button down below. So I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during this whole pandemic situation. I don't know about you all, but I have been in a little bit of a funk, which is the main reason why I haven't really been recording as much. I just can't seem to get in the groove and not really feeling like it. Mind is clouded with all of the other craziness that's going on in the world. But guys, I am so super happy to be back and sharing another story with you. But before I get started on today's case, I do want to talk about the highly talked about case that is currently going on right now with the brutal and just basically disgusting shooting of the 25-year-old black young man in Brunswick, Georgia by the name of Ahmaud Arbery. I just really just don't understand in this day and age why we are still having to deal with this type of hate and violence and just downright nastiness. Unfortunately, this young man lost his life at the hands of two idiots who really had no business confronting him about anything, in my opinion. I just found out about this case probably like everybody else a couple of days ago from the video that's been circulating, which is actually showing him being shot down in broad damn daylight like some sort of an animal. And it just really bothered me. I'm not here to talk about that case today because I just can't. As of the recording of this video, I did find out that the father and son duo, wannabe cops or whatever they wanted to be, were arrested. But what bothers me, and probably what bothers you most, is that the arrest took 2 damn months. And the only reason I feel like they were arrested is because media, or not even media, but I think the only reason that they truly were arrested is because the goodness of people who decided to stand up and say no more are we going to allow black men, young black men, old black men be taken from this world for no reason, or because of someone else's hatred, or because of someone else's fear, or whatever it is that they have going on. So I am just glad that right now that they have been arrested. I do give a side eye to everybody involved who let these two men walk free for 2 months while Ahmaud's mom had to endure the loss of her son for no reason. I also give a side eye to them until this is gone to trial and a conviction is had, because ultimately that is what's going to determine whether or not justice prevails. At this point, I felt like yes, they should have been arrested, but they should have been arrested 2 months ago. So enough about that. Hopefully everything plays out exactly how it should. Hopefully that county or that city and the state of Georgia redeems itself from the ignorance that they have displayed in this particular case. And that's it. That's all I have to say right now. I'm going to follow the case and see how it goes, and I will probably come back and give little updates and reports. But right now, I'm just happy that these two men have been arrested, and I'm also giving a major side eye to Brunswick, Georgia. So let me know what you all think about that particular case. I mean, how do you feel about it? What are your thoughts? What are your, yeah, just what are your thoughts? Let me know what your thoughts are about it in the comments down below. And also, now that I think about it, there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up with regard to that case. Now, I saw a couple of articles that were highlighting or talking about ahmaud's prior criminal history or his prior convictions when he was a teenager, almost an adult. And honestly, I'm disgusted that they would even choose to bring that up in light of what's happened, because I don't understand what relevance it has to today and what happened on February 23rd. Let me know what you all think about that. How it's a pattern. I find that it's a pattern that media outlets, news outlets tend to dig up every single thing that a black male has done or these young black boys have done, to it's almost like to paint a horrible picture of them, but in the face of the public, even when you know what they've endured is not just. What do you all feel about that? Also let me know in the comments down below how you feel about that. So let's get into today's case. This is going to be a new series called Guilty Until Proven Innocent. Today's case is about Marvin Lamont Anderson. Marvin Anderson was born in 1964. He was born and raised in Hanover, Virginia. Growing up, he never had any issues. He never got into any trouble. He was just like every other little boy who grew up wanting to be a police officer or a firefighter. So Marvin was no different. He wanted to become a fireman as an adult. In 1982, Marvin graduated from high school, and he was on his way to begin the future he had always dreamed and planned for himself. As soon as he graduated high school, Marvin wanted to become a fireman, and he took the steps to do just that. He signed up for the next upcoming fire academy class. So at this point, everything seemed to be going great for Marvin. He finished school. He had a future for him planned out for himself. He was beginning adulthood. He had a girlfriend. He was, living with his girlfriend. They were starting to develop a life for themselves. But little did Marvin know his dreams would be shattered the very same summer that he graduated from high school. On July 17, 1982, a Caucasian woman was brutally and savagely raped by a black man who approached her on a bicycle. The victim was also savagely beaten by this man, and he threatened her with a gun. Immediately after this incident, she went to law enforcement and went to the police and reported the assault and told the police that she was brutally assaulted and beaten by a black man. She did not have very much to say about the man's appearance, but she did remember the man was black and that he told her, quote, that he had a white girl, referring to the fact that he had a white girlfriend, I guess. So based on this small piece of important information, but albeit small, the police officer decided to search for a black male and ended up identifying Marvin Lamont Anderson because he was the only black male in the town that just so happened to be living with a white woman. Now, like I said, 18-year-old Marvin never had any run-ins or issues with law enforcement until this incident. Because Marvin had no criminal record, police did not have a mugshot of him in their database or any sort of pictures of him in their database. So one of the police officers decided to go to his job and obtain a photo. The photo happened to be a color photo of him. This was so that he could show the victim potential suspects. Police decided to show the victim a group of black and white mugshots of all black men and one single color photo, which was Marvin. Now, that should have been an immediate red flag for anybody involved in this case, but I guess it was not. Anyone who knows anything about photo lineups or mug shots, you know they're done in a specific way to not suggest any sort of bias. I'm sure that the victim's eye immediately darted to Marvin's photo when the police showed her the series of photographs, because the police negligently and basically disgustingly chose to single him out, with his photo being the only color photo. Now, to me, surely that wasn't an honest mistake. It seems like that was racially motivated in my mind, and probably done on purpose by this police officer. Maybe he had some sort of vendetta against the fact that he was dating or known to be living with a white woman. It just doesn't seem logical to me that he would think, oh, sure, let me get a bunch of black and white photos and then show him, slide in this color photo of this one person, and that should be okay. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. So from what I understand, the proper way to do a lineup is to, or photo or mugshot viewing or whatever you want to call it, is to gather photos of non-suspects as well as the suspect. And the photos should have been either all in color or all in black and white. They should have been rather similar so as not to draw attention to one specific person or make one specific person stand out over the other. Simply using the color photo of Marvin singled him out in the victim's mind, obviously. I mean, even though she did not remember details on his looks, like his height, weight, hairstyle, or whatever, she just had this color photo right in front of her. So what else, that automatically her mind is going to draw or be drawn to that particular photo. Now, that's one thing. She picked his photo, and out of the series of photos that she was given, obviously she would do that. And then what makes it even worse is within the hour of doing that, police decided to bring in Marvin along with a couple of other people, or a couple of other black males, and do a lineup where they asked the victim to pick out her attacker. And of course, what would she do? She just saw this photo where she called him out as being the person who attacked her viciously on that day in July. So she sees him in front of her. She's obviously going to pick him. He was the only man that was chosen for the lineup and also a part of the group of photos. So again, that doesn't make any sense. If you were trying to be unbiased or, you know, not help her make her decision for her, you would have at least brought in some of the people that you showed her in the photos, not just one. But that's what police did. They brought in Marvin, which is the only person that was in the photos, as well as some other black males. As a result of them singling Marvin out yet again, she chose him again as being the person who viciously and violently attacked her. And at that moment, Marvin knew that his life was going to be forever changed. He immediately told the first investigator that entered the room, "My God, I cannot believe she just picked me. devastated, with tears running down his face, he realized that his life was over for something that he, he didn't even do. As soon as people in the community became aware of this case and the nature of how Marvin was picked out in the lineup, of course, people became outraged, especially because there was a known man in the community by the name of John Otis Lincoln, who had previously been arrested for and convicted for raping and assaulting women, and who was also roaming around town or walking around town bragging essentially about being charged and about assaulting women. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough for police to look at other suspects. They still remained focused on Marvin. Marvin ultimately went to trial for sexual assault, robbery, and kidnapping. Now, during the trial, the victim told her account of what happened, and she said that the person made her perform oral sex on him and also urinated on him. Now, because of that, police ultimately ended up taking DNA from both the victim and Marvin Anderson. And ironically or interestingly, the results came back inconclusive. So in addition to that hot mess, Anderson's attorney provided also an alibi for Marvin. And in addition to that, it just so happened that the bicycle that the attacker was using the night of the attack had been recently stolen by someone, from an owner. And that owner ultimately came forward and identified John Otis Lincoln as the person who had stolen his bike just 30 minutes before the attack took place. But yet and still, this was not enough information for the judge, the attorneys, anybody to say, hey, something's wrong here. We got to start looking elsewhere or at some other people. They essentially had their minds made up. And ultimately, Marvin was convicted by an all-white jury. Whatever happened to a jury of your peers, in the United States, that's like non-existent. It doesn't, in certain parts of the country, I don't think that even really happens. I don't even know why we say that. He was convicted by an all-white jury. And although this was Marvin's first offense, his first time ever being in any sort of trouble with law enforcement, he was sentenced to 210 years. 210 damn years for sexual assault, robbery, and kidnapping. Now, check this out, guys. So 6 years later, in 1988, John Otis Lincoln, this name which keeps coming up in the story, was already in jail for another crime. He decided to come forward and admitted in open court that he was involved in the rape against the victim in 1982. But that still wasn't enough for the judge. It wasn't enough for anyone, really, because the same judge that presided over the original case heard Lincoln's testimony and called him a liar and refused to vacate Marvin's conviction. After that, of course, civil rights groups, church leaders, community leaders, everyone began to rally around Marvin and started to basically plead for him or for the justice system to take another look at this case, to review all of the evidence, review all of the testimony. They even pleaded and petitioned for Marvin's clemency in 1993, but again, that request was denied. Years later, after DNA testing became a widely used tool to connect criminals to crimes, Marvin decided to petition the court with the help of his attorney to test his semen again and was also told the evidence was destroyed. Now, you guys, this case is so very disgusting on so many levels. There were so many opportunities for the judge, for the prosecutors, for the district attorney, for somebody to say this is not right, and everyone chose to turn a blind eye. Everyone chose to keep their eyes focused and darted on Marvin when things were blatantly and blindly in front of them, saying that this man was not involved. But in 1994, Marvin never gave up hope and decided to contact the Innocence Project to help him. So in 2001, almost 7 years later, Dr. Paul Ferreira, the director of the Virginia Division of Forensic Science, reached out to the Innocence Project and told them sperm and semen samples recovered from the victim's body were found in a lab notebook of a woman by the name of Mary Jane Burton. She was the criminalist on the original case that performed the testing back in 1982. In 2001, the Innocence Project petitioned the county court for new testing in light of these new events, and their request was granted. But here we go again with somebody else getting involved and not trying to do the right thing. The director of the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services denied the request for testing because he said the current number of cases pending in the division and the potential for establishing an unwelcome precedence, which to me basically means we don't want any more work. We know there's a bunch of there's probably a bunch of wrongly convicted people, and we don't want to have to deal with having to retest all of this DNA or retest all of this evidence. The director then turned around and said he would only allow such testing if the court ordered it or by order of the governor. Now, that was nothing short of an act of God, I feel like, because it seems like at every turn Marvin was being denied. He was being overlooked and just ignored. So now in May of 2001, Virginia adopted a new statute permitting people convicted of a felony to ask the circuit court that entered the original conviction to order new scientific analysis of previously untested scientific evidence. And this was just what the Innocence Project needed. The Innocence Project, in conjunction with the Innocence Project of the National Capital Region at American University, filed a request under this new statute and won in the fall of 2001. This began the process for getting the evidence in Marvin's case retested or tested. So on December 6, 2001, the results came back, and guess what the results showed? The results excluded Marvin Anderson as the potential suspect in the 1982 rape and assault of this white woman, and the results linked two potential suspects to the incident. And guess who one of those potential suspects was or were? John Otis Lincoln. On August 21st, 2002, Governor Mark Warner granted Marvin Anderson a full pardon. Marvin unjustly served 15 years of his 210-year sentence in prison, and he also served 4 years on parole, all while fighting to prove his innocence and being denied at every single turn. I cannot imagine having to endure that. I can't imagine having the determination to even continue forward. At some point, I would probably feel like, okay, my life is just over. I just need to accept it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail because of something that I did not do. But Marvin did not give up. He continued to fight for what he knew was right. And He even went before the parole board at least 3 times and refused to admit his guilt, which in turn they denied him parole at least 3 times. What do you all think about that? I mean, the determination that he had is honestly unbelievable. I cannot believe that he continued to fight for himself, even when it seemed as though everyone was ignoring him, or, didn't even care about him, and thinking that, okay, I know I didn't have anything to do with this. Evidence is showing that I have nothing to do with this. Judges and prosecutors and everybody knows that I don't have anything to do with this, but they're too sorry, too lazy, too racist, or too whatever you want to call it to even care about his life, would leave him to basically rot in prison. He had that in his mind, but was still determined to continue to fight and give it his all no matter what. I just don't know if I would be able to do it. Would you guys, how would you be able to do that? I just don't know. I don't know. Me personally, I would probably just give up. I would be like, all right, I'm just go crawl up in this little hole over here in the corner and die. And to be honest, you have to think about the psychological effect that would have on you as a young man. His whole life was ahead of him when this happened in 1982. So he had no issues, he had no trouble, all of his future goals, everything was just so unjustly and cruelly taken away from him because people were being idiots. It just amazes me that this is our justice system. And think about what happens to people who become a product of their environment. So if Marvin went in an innocent man. He did not do anything wrong, but jail is not a fun place. I've never been, but I'm sure it's not fun. Prison is not fun. So think about what all he could have been exposed to and how that could have changed his life or changed the way, even while being in prison, you can still get in trouble for things and, have issues and problems and fights and this and that. Think about how he was able to keep be in the right frame of mind to stay out of trouble while in prison and to still continue to fight for himself in the event of, just to fight for himself. Marvin ultimately went on to fulfill his lifelong dream of becoming a firefighter and became the chief of his local fire department in Virginia. He has 3 children and sits on the board of directors for the Innocence Project. In 2003, the state of Virginia so graciously, and I'm doing a major side eye on this, so graciously decided to award Marvin a lump sum of $200,000 and $40,000 annually for the rest of his life for torturing him, basically. I honestly feel like, although that's a nice gesture, it doesn't give him back the 19 years that he lost, the 15 years behind bars incarcerated, and the 4 years of parole where you are basically having to be monitored and stalked and bothered like you're still a criminal. And all of the hard work and and just the mental strain while he was trying to clear his name. I mean, I feel like even though this ended well, this case is very heartbreaking. It's sad. It's disgusting to know that this is the world that we live in, and that not much has changed, clearly, based on what just happened with ahmaud. Not much has changed from 1964. And that part is the most bothersome part about all of this. And then I also think about, what about all of the other men and women, black men and women, brown men and women, who are behind bars for things that they have not done because of laziness, because of racial profiling, because of shoddy police work, all of these things. What about the ones that are innocent and then become a product of their environment because they have no choice? They have no choice but to defend themselves while they're behind bars. They have no choice but to fight off violence and the craziness, all the crazy things that go on in prison. What do you all think about this case? Let me know in the comments down below. It's a lot to digest. And I wish we could see some sort of progress, and it doesn't look like it. I mean, if I do, I can draw almost a parallel to this case and the case of Ahmaud. Ahmaud didn't even get to be tried in front of a jury of his quote unquote peers. He was already proven guilty, supposedly, before being proven innocent, and his life was taken from him. And just like this man, Marvin Anderson, who, thank God, he was luckily able to make something of himself and redeem this, his life, take back his life. Unfortunately, Ahmaud didn't. Let me know in the comments below what you all think about these two cases. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to hit the like button down below. Take care and be safe, guys. Bye.